and moves were made. Hands were shook, money exchanged hands, possibly drugs. But it was all good. It was all in the name of fantasy football.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Dynasty. Like I said, we all see things differently.
Put it on his shirt. I
Yes,
just
they do.
drank what tasted like a root beer, but now I'm feeling kind of tipsy.
Judges?
Yes.
Judges?
Yes.
So,
We're good like that.
Ride that unicorn, my friend.
I was really going to do an awful Mexican accent, but I realized how bad I'd be at someone else for doing that. So, hi.
We all are very intrigued and very interested in what will happen this year.
You know, it's been a while since I've done one of these. And getting back in the saddle, I don't think there's any other man I'd want riding bareback with. Well, actually, if you have a saddle, you can't go. What I'm getting at is I'm just happy to be interviewing Robin Brown Ward, our president, for about one more month here on the Dynasty podcast, where 12 friends start the year with the greatest of anticipation, and by the end they
Party?
I
don't know.
Perfect.
And you're interviewing me in my brand new sex dungeon.
Which
My above ground sex dungeon.
it has a bike.
Over under, how many D's are in this room right now?
Lots.
Yeah, see?
You have a whole rack of D's.
A lot of them. All shapes and sizes.
Does not
colors.
discriminate. Colors,
Yeah.
they're there.
It's a wide range and assortment for you to choose from.
Oh my
so
God.
welcome. And
I'm glad to be here,
yeah.
and hopefully you are glad to be in here with me.
I am. I'm looking forward to it. It's been a while since we've gotten a Dynasty podcast, and so I'm just glad to be here and just talk through some craziness.
Speaking of craziness, Pat and Scott attempted to record a podcast.
I heard. I didn't hear it, but I heard that they attempted. I read that
We might have
they
to give
attempted.
them some tips, some best practices.
Well, you know,
recording a podcast.
podcasting is really difficult. You have to have a recording device and you have to talk into it clearly. It's tough.
It's pretty complicated.
Yeah.
And knowing that they are going through the educational system and are going to be the future of our society, I'm a little bit worried. But anyway.
I'm guessing that the only audible part was them talking shit about you, and that's why you just canned it. You
You know what? The
you
whole
flipped
thing-
your desk and
It actually sounded perfect. They were just so mean to me.
they're just so mean to you that you just had to can it forever.
Yeah, it was like the first half or so, for whatever reason, like Scott sounded like a robot, and then he didn't anymore.
God, like distorted robot, or he was talking like a robot. Like, I'm going to sit on your face.
Yes, it's like, I am the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah. I am a robot.
Yeah. But if you want to briefly touch on that, didn't you, besides him and Marcos, didn't you make another trade or no?
I don't think so. No, I did make a draft pick related trade
Right.
earlier on that was just getting me, a particular draft pick.
And that was with Hughes.
Yes, yeah. It was basically giving me like another 13th round pick or something silly like that.
And what was that? Who was that for? Was that when we were talking the other day about your potential keepers?
So I have, I think, 2 players that would be optimal with a 13th round pick, and I think it was Jordan Matthews and someone else.
Okay.
And otherwise, I was gonna have to keep like Jordan Matthews with like a 6th if I wanted to.
Like,
Well, I considered it actually. Jordan Matthews has been hyped in certain years and always been a little disappointing, but he's still been productive. So
this would actually be,
and so
good year,
it was
yeah.
actually kind of over the years. I've felt forced to hold on to him because he was undrafted and he has, had a good pedigree and has all the measurables and size and things like that, but he was dropping balls and doing stupid shit and getting injured. And so I just I considered it like, well, what if I just keep him in the 6th? That way, if he flames out, I don't have to think about it mid-season and just drop him because he doesn't have great keeper value,
Right.
So, but ultimately I made a trade just based on keeping that keeper value.
So Robin Brown Ward, you're a man of many talents, not just sex dungeon talents, which you are amazing with.
Years of practice.
You could write a book on it. Tell the league a little bit about yourself. Maybe there's something that they may or may not know.
I'm pretty much
Other interests.
Well, I clearly, as we referred to in the beginning of the podcast, when I said there were a lot of D's in this room, I wasn't referring to penises.
What were you referring to?
I was referring to disc golf discs.
Ah.
So D's discs, and there are several hundred or more in this room. That's probably my biggest hobby is disc golf for sure. And then other than that, it's working and being a father to 73 children.
A small colony of
Yeah.
brown wards running around.
Yeah,
The county of Sonoma. They're slowly taking over.
I don't know how it happens, but I just keep having children. Not totally clear on the cause.
It's not my fault.
But I got a pretty good crew moving along.
The boys will be introduced to fantasy football in our Dynasty League at some point.
Probably, yes.
So, disc golf. We have briefly touched on it before, but you do have a very successful disc golf podcast.
More or less, I mean, as you know, disc golf is a niche sport, so 15 listeners is pretty damn good.
I think so.
And they send me letters on a regular basis. It's terrific. But yeah, we Joe and I, the future president of this league, do a podcast on disc golf weekly, and we have a good time. We review beers. We talk about disc golf, pro tour events. We talk about just general shenanigans on the course.
I got you a few new listeners.
You did?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I don't think they're on the Slack group or anything.
Well,
but they're down in San Diego. Some of my buddies of mine, and they actually do a little bit of disc golf stuff on Instagram and stuff like that. And I was like, you should check out my guys' podcast. And they were like, sure. And they liked it. So
good. Yeah.
They're now listeners. So
actually, even my one of my design assistant at my work.
That's right.
Is a disc golfer, and one of his really good friends ended up listening to the podcast and became a big time fan. And I'm going to play with them actually on Sunday morning.
Are people going to start storming your office, finding out where you work and
I hope not. I've been pretty loose with where I live and who I am to most of the people.
Demanding autographs.
Yeah, really, it's rough. I keep headshots on my person at all times,
signed,
just in case.
Do you put kisses on them?
I do. I do carry lipstick just in case I need to put it on solely for the purpose of kissing the photo.
For no other reason.
Not because I think it looks great.
And it brings out my eyes.
Yeah. Certain shades work well with my blue eyes. So it's a lot of fun. We did not expect our disc golf podcast, which is literally called the Disc Golf Podcast, to
brilliant naming,
to take off, but now we have thousands of listeners every month, and it's been a lot of fun doing it too. So,
what's your favorite disc? Don't worry, earmuffs everybody else except for the one disc.
One of the first discs, the putters that I've thrown forever are AVRs, and I still love them.
Why is it is it just is it a sentimental thing, or are they actually just really good?
No, it's one of the original kind of molds for a putting disc. So just like in ball golf, regular golf where you have a putter to hit your short range shots. In disc golf, your ball and club are a disc in the same. So there are putters that are meant for short range shots, and it was one of the first ones I ever used, and it's one of the best ones ever made, and I still have and use them regularly.
What do you think original discs were like for disc golf? Do you think they just use frisbees?
They did actually use,
That must have been
frisbees in the beginning. Well, it was targets in the beginning, like objects. So the modern target basket that you see now with chains and everything in the beginning didn't really exist. There was everything from like a what they call a tone pole, like a bell that you would throw the disc at, and it would hit it, and that would count.
Kind of like a horseshoe.
Yeah, pretty much. But a taller sort of thing that had a second level, so when you hit it, it would ring like a bell.
Right.
And then as they developed the golf disc, which is very similar to the AVR that I'm talking about, the mold in general, that's when they started doing targets too. So
That's crazy.
yeah.
I think that somebody was like, you know what? Screw the frisbee.
Yeah, and now he's got a ton of money.
Who is it?
Dave Dunapace, he's the owner of Innova Champion Discs.
Oh,
which
that's cool.
is
So, like, one of the original dudes that was, like, making them.
Yep. He basically invented the modern... He did invent the modern disc golf disc.
That's crazy, because usually when you hear about, like, that, like, if that was a Hollywood story, he would invent it, and then some, like, douchebag would steal it.
Yeah.
And then, like, he would try and fight for it.
No.
And then, like, lose in the end, and then be sad and depressing.
No.
But that's actually... I was surprised that you're like, yeah, it's the same dude. He's, like, rich now.
And it's easily, by far, the biggest and most successful disc golf company out there. So... They have the most molds, a lot of everything. So
Do you think like Nike gets into disc making?
Well,
some point?
Adidas already sponsors one of the best players in the world, and a number of others. So Adidas has been the first major kind of Nike-style company to jump in the mix.
Who would you want to be sponsored by?
Adidas is a terrific sponsor. I mean, they make a lot of
What
really
about, like FUBU.
Yeah, I don't know if that would work out well for me. I don't think that.
Hi, FUBU executives. Well. My name is Robert Brown Ward, and I'm a disc golfer. I'm looking for sponsorship. They're like, what? Here's my head shop.
I used to be addicted to crack. Now I am clean.
Please give me money so I can play disc golf.
Yeah. So. I mean, Adidas is a terrific sponsor. Really, any of the disc golf companies,
right?
It's still kind of a fledgling sport, very, very fast growing sport, but
very grassroots.
Yes, yeah, very much so.
That's cool, though. So now everybody knows a little bit more about Robin, and if you didn't, well, now you do.
Likes disc golf, has 1 billion kids. This pretty much covers it.
Works a lot.
Yeah,
drinks alcohol,
drinks beer, and does podcasts at night.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts going into the end of your reign as president? Like, you've been a little bit, you've been a little quiet on the front. I think the league in general, like the past few weeks, has been pretty quiet, except for some of the trades that happened. But
yeah.
Like,
trades that I still don't fully comprehend. Keezer got a whole bunch of players from Pat for stuff. I don't totally get what happened there, but some
right.
players were rented for things and stuff, and it seemed
it's like Keezer strikes again.
Yeah, seemed like some pretty good players got moved to Keezer's team temporarily for not a lot of stuff.
For like random 9th round draft picks.
Yeah. Yeah. So yay that. Everybody seems to just be like entranced by Keezer this season. I would recommend to everyone just maybe hold off on trade negotiations because so far it's like Keezer 4, rest of league 0.
Yeah. I think when he sends you those Snapchats, you guys need to just delete those.
Maybe calm down, take a deep breath, and
don't open that up.
And don't give away highly valuable picks and players for garbage.
Right. Don't be so thirsty, y'all.
Yeah. Act like you've been there.
Come on now. Come on. But one of the trades, and I'll try and let Scott and Pat, they were trying to talk about some of the trades that they made, so we don't have to go into too much detail, but there was a trade made that can affect your draft because
For sure.
Scott traded with Marco for the number 1 overall pick.
He did.
You have the 2 and 3, the 2
Yep.
you got from me, and the initial thought is, Zeke is going to go, but now there's these possible reports
Yes.
that we're going to find out very soon of anywhere between, we're hearing 2 to 4 game suspension
Yes.
for Ezekiel Elliott. And if that happens, I don't know what Scott would do, but if he doesn't take Zeke still and takes AB or Julio, what do you do?
It just all depends on
Besides punch a wall.
on what how long the suspension is, and he's Scott's already stated that if he thinks it's I think that anything under 4 games is a no-brainer. You probably still have to take him.
Right.
And 4 games is a real head scratcher. You unfortunately it's tough to go 4 weeks with a dead roster spot.
Right.
And make it work.
Because that would mean that you would probably have to invest really, really early in either McFadden or whoever is going to be the backup, Alfred Morris.
Yep.
And so you'd have to
spend 2 picks most likely.
Right.
Fairly early, because that means McFadden is probably a 3rd round pick.
Yeah, because,
right?
If you were to get 4 weeks of... when McFadden was a starter...
Like, think about D'Angelo Williams in Pittsburgh, and when McFadden...
Scoring 18 points a game, that's essentially going to be McFadden.
Yep.
He's going to be scoring in the teens.
So McFadden becomes a 3rd round pick, and or maybe, at worst, a 4th, I'd say.
Right.
So you probably have to target that just so that you have that. So that's a tough one. At the same time... You let it happen, and you're dropping value to someone later on in the draft that can get that big time piece.
Right.
I think that there's in any scenario, I don't think there's any way that he makes it past Brienne in the middle of the 1st round.
Yeah,
because for her, with a team that's not very good, she doesn't have a lot of keepers. She doesn't have a 2nd round pick. A couple of other things. He represents the most trade value that she can pawn off mid-season.
Right.
So I think that people thinking that they're going to get Zeke at the end of the 1st or in the early 2nd are dreaming.
No way.
So I would say that the worst case scenario, Zeke ends up there, and that's if he gets a 6-game suspension or something like that. Oh my God, that's brutal.
That if it was that severe, geez.
I personally think this is a lot of smoke, a lot of dead season news,
right.
And that if there's anything, I think we'll be talking 1 or 2 games, and Scott still takes Zeke. And if he's scared off by that, you better believe I'm taking Zeke instead of anybody else. So
if that is the case, if he were to lose 2 games and Scott doesn't take him, then I would really regret trading my number 2 pick. I would have, somebody would have said, you'll get 14 games of Zeke.
Yeah.
At the number 2 overall pick, I'd be like, I'll take that.
And I luckily I do have the other pick in that 1st round. Now I don't have a 2nd round pick anymore, but I also to fill out what I believe is a competitive roster, not the best roster it could be, but I don't think I need both 1st round picks to fill out a good team that could be competitive. Now, it would be nice to have both of those picks active on day 1, right. but I also keep that in mind, that I do have some pretty decent depth in both running back and in wide receiver, and I think I could make it work either way.
I think so.
But, again, it's fantasy football, so who knows? You always got crazy shit happening.
Yeah, like when Tim wins championships.
Yeah, fucking crazy. Well, David Johnson, dude. I mean,
I know.
David Johnson.
I know.
Like, it's really that's really it. Like all this, how did you win the championship? Luck, blah blah blah. No, it's David Johnson.
Thanks, Elliott.
Yeah.
Because Elliott drafted him and then dropped him and then.
Well, I mean, you pick your poison though. It's either that or you got Elliott prancing around with David Johnson. I think you'd rather have your brother win, right?
Probably.
I mean, new father. Congratulations, Elliott.
Right, we love you, but.
But based on league history and the fact that he placed you like 10th or 11th or 11th in the
power
Dynasty
rankings.
power rankings,
Jeez.
I'm guessing there's some bad blood there in that Dynasty battle.
I didn't know I was so not loved by Elliott. I'll just say that.
I mean, it seems pretty mutual.
Right.
Seems like it goes back and forth pretty well.
The only thing that doesn't go back and forth are the wins and losses because
Yeah.
I get a lot of them W's. Draft strategy. You essentially have, the one first round thing we came into, but then you really only have like 2 or 3 picks?
My last pick is I have 2 picks in the 5th round, and one of them I'll be keeping Tevin Coleman with. So I have 1 pick in the 5th round, and I have a 2 first, a 3rd, a 4th, and a 5th.
Is it just best available talent?
Yep. I probably won't actually draft a kicker or a defense.
That's probably fair.
And I will just I'm going to keep certain players that I think are lottery tickets, and
Right.
I'm going to draft the best available players and give myself a couple weeks to sort things out and figure out, who's the best players. Maybe I can make a trade for something and then pick up a kicker and a defense based, at the beginning of the season.
Or just refuse to start them and win anyway.
Probably not, because I think. Well, I don't know. Actually, the schedule's not done yet. Last year, I faced Marcos out the gates, and I imagine Elliott will probably put me against Joe this time.
Elliott would. Elliott's gonna
Yeah,
have everybody else beat up on each other, and he's gonna be like, "I'm gonna play."
yeah, that would make sense. So we all open against each other, and he opens against Brienne like magically.
Right.
And, yeah,
It's random. What, guys?
What? Oh no!
How'd this happen?
Everybody else has division matchups, but oops, what are you gonna do? So,
Dang, Elliott.
but I mean, Marcos has a shit ton of picks in the first. He has in the first 3 rounds or something like that, like 5 picks.
Mm-hmm.
So he has a lot of really great picks, and he also has some great keepers. And then I have Joe in the same division who has a lot of really great keepers and standard number of picks, but he really doesn't need a lot of picks to fill out a great team.
Right.
And so there's going to be, I think very highly of my team as well. And there's those 3 teams in that division. There's going to be a really good team that doesn't make the playoffs in our division, possibly 2, depending on how things go.
Would you like to give out any drinks tonight on the podcast?
No, I'm pretty much good.
You're
I
good?
mean, yeah, I think everybody's done a good job. We got Tim good and shellacked the other day, and he's going to start his year of abstinence pretty soon.
His purity.
Yeah, his purity challenge.
Yeah.
for the year. And soon I'll be vice president instead of president. So I'm not really feeling like flexing.
Okay. Not flexing on fools?
No, not at all.
What kind of
Now, granted, had I heard like a podcast by Pat and Scott with mad shit talking, I would have probably thrown out a punishment that would then be retracted by Elliott, because that's what he does. So really what I'm saying is there's no point in handing out drinks.
Okay. Going into this season, your predictions are, for yourself, you will finish...
I think that I'm gonna snag the 4th spot, the wild card spot. I think that either Marcos or Joe is going to win our division.
Interesting.
So I think it's actually going to be Marcos. So I'm saying that Joe's not going to make the playoffs.
Marcos, I'm actually surprised that he's been sneaky smart, like his.
Yeah, he's done a nice job. Really, really good.
It's almost like somebody's been coaching him.
I can't manage 3 teams in our league. That's crazy.
That's good.
Hey, 2 is already hard enough.
I kid. Typical question. Team you're most looking forward to playing this season?
Well, I mean, I always look forward to the Joe matchups. My podcast partner.
That's true.
You always want to take those down.
Yeah.
So
I remember your guys' matchup last year.
yeah,
It was just like,
Phantom Sack.
yeah, that was.
Phantom.
We had
Sack.
some weird games last year.
Yep.
That was definitely one of them.
Yep.
Definitely one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a joke. The point. You want to take us through that? I don't know if we got your take on it last year.
We did. It
Okay.
definitely happened. I was not shy about that one.
Okay.
But yeah, I had won a matchup by like 0.68 points or something like
Yeah,
that.
it was something like that, like a half
And
a point.
against Joe, I want to say.
Yeah.
And well, maybe it wasn't Joe. I can't remember.
No, I think it was Joe.
I think it was, but I was already off to a really bad start in my year, so I was not going anywhere. My team was tanking big time, and but this would have been a death blow to Joe in terms of his chances to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And it was I scored a ton of points, so it was like a high scoring matchup, and going into Sunday night had won by a very small margin of points. And then there was a stat correction giving, I believe, the Denver defense a sack
Yeah.
over the night.
Yeah.
And there was like I watched the whole fucking game.
Yeah.
There was
we
no
watched
sack.
it. We were just like,
There was no sack. So what I think happened is there was one of those things where like the quarterback, on wrapping around, ran out of bounds like 6 inches before the line of scrimmage.
Right. Was, like,
and some
touched or
fucking
something.
asshole douchosaurus stat collector was like, "Oh, that's a sack."
Yep.
Quarterback before the line of scrimmage. It wasn't. Fuck that shit. That was so fucking stupid.
I just remember you weren't the only one because I went onto social media and went on to like websites to check and stuff. And apparently that had actually affected a ton of fantasy football
Yeah.
games.
There was even like in the post game interviews, like one of the defensive players was being interviewed and stuff like that, and he was like, we really strapped, but I don't even think we recorded a sack tonight. And they're like, no, you didn't. You did not record a sack tonight.
No, I know for sure you didn't.
Because I watched the whole damn game, and the quarterback was never tackled behind the line of scrimmage. So that was definitely the phantom sack. Whatever.
That was pretty much like a microcosm of your season last year.
It really was. It really was. I had a really great first week. I scored a lot of points and won, and then after that, just loss after loss after loss.
Yeah, I lost it to here week 1, so I think that set the tone for my season very early in terms of performance.
But to be honest, I had sold out the previous year going for the championship and came up short. And I knew that my team was at a major disadvantage,
Right.
Going into that. So it was just it was one of those consequences when you give up early round picks and keepable players to go for it. And it's probably gonna hurt if you don't win, and even if you do win, you might have a bad season. So I knew what I was doing that year before, and I put myself in an uphill battle where I needed some lottery tickets to come through, and it didn't happen. But I did, make the best of my season and collect a lot of good talent and draft picks. So you gotta keep that in mind when you're playing fantasy football in a keeper league. If winning the championship's not an option, you got to start focusing on winning next year. So, and just constantly watching The Wire and looking for deals and value that you can
He
get.
doesn't mean the TV show The Wire.
Yeah. Well, I mean that too.
I mean, you can.
You should
watch
probably
The Wire.
watch The Wire. It might help,
Would Joe watch The Wire?
I believe Joe has watched The Wire.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he has seen like a main pop culture like TV show.
I'm pretty sure Joe has watched The Wire.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Person who you least want to face this upcoming season.
Gosh. I mean, I already talked a bunch about my division and how much I respect the teams that are there. So, I mean, I'd say Tim probably has the team that is Tim and Keyser probably have the two other teams
I
that
keep
are
forgetting.
that
I always think
have
about
a lot of
Joe.
talent on them.
Yeah.
Tim's probably more so just because there's a lot of talk about whether Le'Veon Bell or David Johnson is the best overall player
Right.
in fantasy football. I personally think it's David Johnson.
I do too.
And so I tend to lean to that. I'm more worried about the team with that great player. Plus, he's got Jordan Howard and Matt Ryan that he can keep, and what's his face from Thomas from the Saints, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's got a really elite player in each category, and also 2 elite running backs, assuming that Jordan Howard is still good. But I think that's fairly safe. And David Johnson's 20 points a freaking game. It's just nuts.
A monster.
Yeah.
Who would you like? Who would you like losing to would put you on suicide watch?
Oh, for sure, Brienne.
I thought you were going to say like one of the Detroit boys.
No, heck no. They manage their teams and do a nice job. Brienne is at a huge disadvantage this year with just picks and not a lot of keepers, and so her team is going to be pretty thin, and that'll be a brutal in-division loss. Mostly just because in division, and it's going to be wins in our division are going to be important. That division record is going to be extremely important, and that'll be one that'll be real hard.
See Matt Hughes last year winning the division.
Yeah.
Division
Yeah.
games are important.
Really important. So yeah, that would be definitely the worst.
What was your darkest day last year? Were you ever just like? did you ever?
Definitely that. I mean, I had already lost my season,
Right.
but that phantom sack was pretty brutal. That was super dumb.
I think Joe even like came over briefly later that night.
Yeah, it's like
we had
hey.
been drinking. He was like, sorry, buddy, and like clapping you on the back, and you were just like, fuck you, like just had this look on your face.
It was one of those, like early in the second season or whatever, when Tim was the Kingslayer, suddenly winning. That's
Right.
what you want to do. You want to eliminate people.
Yeah.
And not only that, but it wasn't like an 83 to 82 matchup. My team actually scored, and it was not a.
Yeah, it was like 160. You think you had like 116 or
Yeah,
something.
it was.
You were,
It
like,
was
in
up
the
there. It was
100s.
close to 120.
Yeah.
In the points scored, and so that was just kind of like really, but it all came out in the wash. Joe didn't win the championship, so I don't have to. I don't have to worry about that. Like that, I could have been the knockout punch.
Yeah, going up to 3.
The worst so far in our season or in our history that I can think of was that Joe and I in the third season played each other in like the 5th or 6th game of the season.
Uh-huh.
And Joe had a really bad record, and I had a chance to put him in sell mode, and I started Julius Thomas over Gary Barnage, and Gary Barnage scored like 23 points or something
man.
like that.
That was the peak Gary Barnage year.
Yeah, and Julius Thomas scored like 7 points or something like that, which wasn't awful, but I would have won.
Right.
Had I and Julius Thomas had just come off injury.
Right.
And it was not really a great play, and Barnage had been, just a target monster, and
Right.
it was just kind of like me not totally believing in Barnage, but had I started him, I would have won. and probably put Joe in sell mode, and he would not have then won that championship that
Right.
year. Instead, he wins, goes on to win the division that year, get the wild card
Yeah,
that
he was
year,
a
and
four
then
seed.
take me out in the first round of the
Damn.
playoffs. Yeah. That's the worst kind of butterfly effect.
Damn. That's an amazing turning point. And that I vaguely remember that too, because that was back when I was working with Joe. Mm-hmm. And I think I remember we had some discussions about that where he was kind of like, if I would have lost that week, like I probably would have been looking to sell.
Yep. Absolutely.
My God.
It would have put him to something like 2-4,
Right.
or something like that.
I kept trying to. I remember last year I kept trying to like sell, but my division was so bad. I was always like mathematically, and like so Elliot, like he would do his thing where he was like, such and such team has been eliminated. Remember last year? And I was just like, God, can you just eliminate me so I can finally just fire sale my team? And then I ended up beating him and Tim in the last few weeks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you don't want to be eliminated because then you can't trade. So it's all about selling before.
Right. That's true. That's true. Going into this year, what do you think is the probability of Tim repeating?
Pretty good, I'd say. I mean, there's a lot of great teams out there, but I think it's got a pretty good shot. I know you don't want to hear that, but
I really don't. Because if Tim...
I can also easily make the case for regression. You know, you probably got a decent shot that Matt Ryan is not going to repeat the career year he had last year.
Probably not.
So you can assume some regression there, but Tim probably knows that and will draft, some backup options. I would imagine that he's going to take Jameis Winston.
Probably.
Because, he's had a massive boner for Jameis Winston all along. So, and, we'll see. And Jordan Howard could have a sophomore slump, something like that. And who knows? But he still has early on picks to tie out his team. And David Johnson is like having two good players on your team in one spot.
Right.
So,
who's your favorite player on your team right now?
In terms of who I think is going to be the best, like
Just
that
who's your
I
favorite?
currently have.
Who's your favorite? Kind of like your favorite disc.
Got it. That's actually a decent question. I don't really have a current favorite. I have ones that I have high hopes for. And I really think that CJ Prosise is going to end up being probably the best fantasy asset out of Seattle's backfield.
It could be.
And so I'm really liking that. Probably my favorite though, I think Hunter Henry is going to be a stud tight end for a long time
That's
to
who
come.
you'd swipe right for.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, he's just a nice looking dude too.
Great smile.
Yeah. Terrific smile.
Have you seen those abs?
Awesome traps.
Who do you think would most likely crush beers with you on your team?
I mean, Fat Rob maybe last year, but apparently now he's Skinny Rob.
Right.
So
Cut out the carbs.
So he probably isn't going for that too much. So let's see. I bet Derek Carr would throw back some beers with me.
Maybe.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say yeah.
Okay. I'll take that. Who do you think, out of all the people on your team, would do the best on the disc golf course? Take him out for a round.
You always gotta go to the skill position guys. So it's certainly quarterbacks. So I'd say Carr again. Just that hand-eye coordination, the consciousness of your mechanics, that's extremely important in disc golf. So quarterbacks for sure have a huge advantage, I'd say.
Would you ever give up?
I would have said Terrell Pryor, but he's not on my team anymore.
It's not official yet.
Somebody stole him from me.
He's not on my roster yet. He's still there. You can take him. Probably would be very good.
I think he would, because he's number one, bigger and stronger than Derek Carr, and was a quarterback.
Do you eat a big meal before you go play disc golf? What do you do?
No. Typically try and keep it relatively light before. I mean, just like any athletic thing, you got to hike the course and deal with that. So you don't want to be out there hungry. But
Do you stay hydrated?
yes, very hydrated.
Like water hydrated, or
I mean, there's some water involved.
or hop hydrated.
Mostly beer. But there's water involved too.
Have you ever drank too much on a disc golf?
Oh, for sure. Oh
Did
my
you ever
god.
throw up?
No, never thrown up on a course. But yeah, definitely on a few different occasions, bachelor parties, and I think a couple of birthday occasions got pretty lit.
Were you able to finish?
Oh, of course,
Okay.
yeah.
I didn't know how
Yeah.
bad it was.
Yeah, no, and then I've had other people that could not.
Do you think Scott could finish around?
I mean, he might go a little too crazy with the booze, but I'm sure that Scott could finish around. I got no doubt about that.
Does Scott finish college?
Yeah, of course he does. Come on. Scott's not doing anything that I didn't do.
I know.
And probably you too. I didn't know you in college.
Right.
But I assume.
Yeah, I just look at it. He posts those videos, and I'm just like, I'm getting some flashbacks right now.
Yeah.
May have done and said very similar things.
Yeah, we just didn't have readily available video,
No, thank God.
you know.
Thank God.
You had- if you wanted to record video when we were in college, you had a camcorder, essentially.
Which-
Or brought a camera with you to do it. It's not like you could freaking turn your phone towards yourself and record video super easy.
Which you did.
Yeah. So it was. I'm just glad that I don't have that evidence existing. That's great. Except for a collection that Matt Hughes for some reason hasn't burned.
No, I know. He brought those out, I remember.
Yeah.
Good old Matty Hughes.
Yeah.
Who has the biggest collapse this year? Is it going to be Elliot again because he has another kid?
Ooh.
Or will it be you because you are also having...
So.
Oh, God! Double baby curse!
Double baby curse for sure. No, I think. So for it to be a collapse, it has to be a highly ranked team.
Ah, that's true.
So.
I hold you in high regards.
Yeah. So based on that, the team I think that would be most likely to regress, I'm going to go with Tim. Even though I previously said that I think he could win, I also think that he's got a chance that some of the players he's trusting, you know, it's always the funny thing, like figuring out your season where you think someone's going to be good.
Right.
And when they're not, sometimes it takes several games to really react to that. And it sometimes is too late.
With Tim, it's usually like he's set up and would do great, like in the past, and then he would do something really stupid.
Yes. That's a
Trade a
possibility
player
too.
or like drop a player, and you're just like, Tim, like, what were you thinking?
Yep.
And then it's usually his downfall.
Yeah.
What
And
do you
then
think he does this year?
I'd say close second would be Joe, just based on at some point the ball's got to fall down. And, you know, I had a pretty good stretch there, and then I had a terrible season last year. And, you know, sometimes bad luck catches up to you, and you have a bad season, especially with good teams in your division.
2 new baby dad. Well, not new. You're both baby daddies,
Yeah.
but soon to have 2 new babies to add to your baby collections. Who has a better year, you or Elliot?
Oh, for sure, me.
Nice.
For sure.
Nice.
There's just no... Yeah. I don't even know who's on Elliot's team.
I actually don't think I know either. Usually I'm pretty good with the rosters, and I don't think I know who's on Elliot's roster, to be completely honest with you.
So... And I think Elliot would tell you that he needs his draft picks to work out to have his team work out.
I think so.
I don't need all of my draft picks to work out for my team to be good, in my opinion.
Well, it's because you have like three draft picks.
Yeah.
Other than that, your team's pretty set.
Now I have a lot of running backs. Not all of them are locks to be good running backs, but I'm guessing that at least a couple of them are going to come through in their spots. So just based on how many of them there are. Now, if all of my running backs flop, I'm going to have a rough year.
Right.
So.
Right. That was me last year.
Yeah. That's the keystone in my team is I'm banking on all of those. Now, maybe not, who knows, maybe I end up drafting a running back in the first round and have something else. Could be that too.
Could be a Zeke.
Could be Zeke. So, and I have a third round pick that's relatively early on in the third, and I think there'll be a pretty good player there too. So, I think I'll have a chance to kind of add on the running back or wide receiver that will be at least stable in that spot.
Just got an idea. Want to get your thoughts on it. What if we did a draft day drinking game where every rookie taken before round...
The fourth?
Yeah, so like within the first 3 rounds, every rookie,
yeah, there's 5 of them currently ranked in the first 3 rounds.
I have a feeling we have talked about this. I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast, but I know we've talked about it at length. It's like I have a feeling that all these high profile rookies are going to get picked like in the first.
I don't doubt that either.
Like midway through the 3rd round, I think they'll all be gone.
I wouldn't be surprised if Fournette, Mixon, McCaffrey, Cook, and who's the next one? Who's the 5th one?
There was a receiver.
I don't think Davis or anybody like that will go, but I'd say at least those 4: Fournette, McCaffrey, or Fournette, Mixon, McCaffrey, and Cook. I could totally, and then there's Perrine, but it kind of seems like Rob Kelly has had a good camp. But I'd say at least those 4. I think those 4 are gone in the first 3 rounds. And man, I kind of look at that and I'm like, all right, go for it, guys. I'm going to stay away from those.
I think that we're going to go. I just have this feeling it's just going to be super rookie crazy this year. And what should we do? Should we just like chug drinks every time a rookie goes, or do a shot?
I'd say rookies in the first 3 rounds. It's shots for everyone. I think it has to be, except for Tim, of course.
Except for Tim. Tim can pour them and give them.
Tim
to
can
us.
Tim can pour them and curtsy as he hands them to. But I,
call everybody my lord.
I get it. They are going into situations. I think the one to me that is most baffling is McCaffrey. You see the talent, but you also have no clue what his role is in the offense whatsoever. And you have Jonathan Stewart, who's still, an effective running back in that system. And then you have Cam Newton, who just came off a terrible year.
Right. And
you have no idea whether he can even throw to a running back. That's the one to me that I'm just like, whoa, oh my gosh. How are you really going to take McCaffrey in the early 2nd round? That seems nuts to me.
Right.
And even showing Fournette in our 1st round, it seems kind of nuts to me, but
yeah,
but there's definitely some older players that used to be former, 1st round picks that maybe, are a little bit risky too. So I don't know. That's but yeah, McCaffrey of those 4 running backs probably to me seems the most risky.
So you're going to have Julio. Well, we're just assuming in AB.
Let's assume that Zeke gets a minimal suspension
Right.
or no suspension, because I think that's probably closer to what's actually going to happen. You forget this is the Cowboys and Jerry Jones too.
Right.
You know, he kind of does a good job of wagging the dog in the league.
And he is like the head of like the owners association. So he'll probably,
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a short suspension. I also would not be surprised whatsoever if there was none at all.
Right.
I will be surprised if it's more than 2 games.
right. I'm feeling like it's going to be 2.
So that's kind of my opinion on it. I think it's just kind of... So in that scenario, I'm most likely taking Antonio Brown and Julio Jones.
Right. But my question to you is, your next pick is in the
Early third
round. Like,
It's like the 3rd or 4th overall pick in the 3rd.
and so who would your third wide receiver be?
Devontae Adams.
Okay, that's pretty good. And so you'd probably be looking at running backs then, not wide receivers.
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
I'd say, you know, that or most likely I'd be looking for a running back that I think has a high floor.
Possible Amir
Because
Abdullah.
I've got a ton of running backs that have a high ceiling, you know, and a low floor, and I'd probably be looking for a running back that's got a good shot at being consistent to kind of balance that out. That'd be my guess. Depending on how the draft goes, who knows, you know. Who knows? Maybe there's just a wide receiver that lands there that's too good to pass up.
Would you take Eric Decker? if
Not
he
in the
landed
3rd,
there?
I don't think.
No?
No.
Even though he's going to Tennessee?
Yeah. I'd still
it's hard to
I'd
say.
still probably wait.
Amir Abdullah?
I would absolutely consider Amir Abdullah in that position. Yeah.
I'm trying to think who else would be there.
Well, I
in the
mean,
third.
I'm sure.
I mean, the rookies might. I think maybe like Cook would probably be there. But you also have Murray.
I would imagine. I have Latavius Murray, so I imagine Cook would be there. So, but I just don't know that I want to do that. I mean, that backfield could just be a dumpster fire. Like, do I really
Yeah,
want to
true.
double invest in a backfield that maybe I don't fully believe in to begin with?
Right. In a rookie that you don't get to keep.
Yeah, and a rookie that I don't get to keep, probably not. So I'll probably be a little bit more conservative with that pick. You know, certainly you could have someone like Frank Gore could be there. Maybe it's
think he will.
Amir Abdullah. You know, who knows? So there's probably running backs there, but you know, maybe Michael Crabtree makes it there, and I
have him.
And I got no choice but to say, you know what, Michael Crabtree's going to have a better year, and I can pair him with my quarterback and not have to worry about that. So I will really probably just be best available at that point rather than specific needs, because I'm at that point I will be 4-5 deep at both wide receiver and running back.
What's the most that you would give up to win a fantasy football championship and be tied with Joe?
Let's see. Like monetarily, or what are we talking about here?
Like anything. It could be that bike.
Well, I mean, my time is probably the most valuable thing that I give up as is to win or not win every year.
Okay.
And that's pretty much the extent of it. I'm not going to...
Not your 75th born child?
Heck no. I mean, maybe the 76th, but or the 69th. But yeah.
Would you give your favorite disc, your putter? Would you give
Well,
that away?
I have 60 of them.
Like,
So
they were
yes,
gone.
I would absolutely give one of them.
What if like all of them, all of said putter?
All of them?
Yes.
No, absolutely not.
No?
That'd be a losing proposition.
You couldn't move on to another.
Well, I mean, it's a money
Putter?
standpoint. Like, what if I win? I'm going to make $200 or something like that. If I give up 60 of my putters, those things are $10 a piece. That's $600. So I'd technically be losing $400 on that deal.
So you're like thinking very logically.
Yes. Yeah.
Like you wouldn't like cut off a finger.
Hell no.
It's like the most practical. You're like, I'd give up like this 6-pack of beer.
Yeah. Like,
win.
what's the? How can I still make a reasonable profit on this?
Right?
Yeah.
How can I still come out ahead?
Yeah. Exactly.
Lame.
Sorry.
I can't see how we're doing on time. Can you check it?
Well, it is 10:15 in the PM at the moment, so I feel like we're probably coming
We got 5 minutes
close on an hour.
left. We got 5 minutes left. Since we are heading towards the end of the podcast, we've talked a little bit about the future, talked about last year a little bit. What was your high last year?
My high, like the best.
Yeah, what was like the high point? We talked about your lowest point.
Gosh.
Was it like draft day?
I mean, it could have either been like after the first game when I thought my team might actually be good.
Right.
When Brandon Cooks blew up for like 25 points and CJ Anderson had like 23 and, Derek Carr and Cam Newton both played well and things like that. And I was like, oh, my team might actually be
Right.
okay. I might not have, complete regression. And then it was all downhill. So in terms of fantasy play, probably that. In terms of my best part would be, getting the value that I needed out of my early picks in Cooks and Cam and Ingram going to Keyser and getting second round pick for that. So
That was sweet. That was such a good trade.
So
Damn, that was a good trade.
for me, like personally, that gave me a lot of flexibility
Right.
going into the off season to make the moves that I did. So
Yeah, that was my first year last year where I really started selling house. And it was after like just embracing it and not being mad anymore about my season being over. It was
Yeah.
actually kind of fun.
yeah. Well, and you don't have to worry about winning anymore.
Yeah.
So like the day of roster decisions, like, oh, do I start so and so or so and so is not as crazy. And you also the ability to drop players and pick up the players that
Right.
you want and hang on to a player that maybe isn't going to perform all that great in that given week, but has a lot of long-term upside. That's the most fun about a shitty season is kind of hunting for those waiver wire gems and trying to build your squad so that you don't waste another season.
So I guess the last question is there anything you would like to speak on before we end this podcast? Would you like to address the league as president one last time?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
One, I'm just really excited for football to come back because
Save us from
the
the
Giants have been so fucking terrible that
sucks.
baseball is almost unwatchable. And so I'm just looking forward to it. I'm excited about my team and the competition coming up, and it's going to be another fun football season. And I'm just looking forward to it. I like my team personally, so that helps. And I also have a couple of teams in my division that I'm worried about, so that'll make for some good, exciting matchups. And that's probably the biggest thing. And I'm going to be, I'll have a child most likely being born right at the beginning of football season. Like literally could be opening weekend. So that's going to be crazy. Could be some decision making issues based on sleep deprivation.
Right. I think each team you beat has to send you like an article of baby clothing.
Sure. Or just beer. Just send
Or
me
beer.
beer. I'm
That
fine
works
with
good.
that.
That too.
And Joe will be president. So you guys are going to learn a little thing about leadership in the next year.
It's kind of like everybody like I miss Obama. Like no.
You can't impeach him.
That's right. That's forever. That's forever. Well, not forever. Well, could be. Who knows? My God, league. Step it up.
You may not have liked Obamacare when it was around, but you might miss it.
Right? The alternative, unless you're Keyser.
Yeah.
Keyser's the 1% thriving. No.
Yes. Exactly.
Would he be? Well, you said Brand. Never mind. I was gonna say, would Keyser be the one person that you would least?
No, I mean Keys. I expect to lose to Keyser's team. He looks like he's got a great team.
He does. He has a very good team.
So,
and he's like 15 first-round picks somehow.
Yeah, somehow he managed to get 2 of them and not give up anything.
Well,
I'm not totally sure how that happened, but it did.
Tim
and Tahir.
To Pat, whoever else, I don't know. Stop it, everybody. Just stop, everybody.
Stop it.
Just stop. Don't swipe right.
Don't swipe right.
Don't answer those Snapchats.
No. Yeah.
Don't get that when you get that late night text message. Don't
listen. I know
block the number.
I know the punny pickup line was charming, but you just gotta drop it.
He rhymed penis with Goodell somehow. I was entranced. What can I say? He had me from there in the palm of his hand. Just stop it, everybody. You only have like 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Yeah. Can everybody just not trade with Geezer between now and the draft?
I'm afraid.
Like I can't do anything about it once the season starts.
I guarantee you Keyser will find a way to trade with Scott for the number 1 overall pick.
Really? You think so?
I don't know. I just feel like that's something that could happen.
It could.
Scott's going to get too scared and just be like, screw it. I'm trading
and
back
give it
in
up
the
for
first.
nothing. And Keyser will have 3 first-round picks somehow.
Yeah.
Like he'll give up the number 1 overall pick and not get a first-round pick back.
He'll give up his first round and his second round picks.
Scott, don't do it. Don't do it.
For like...
Yeah.
Some horrible player, John Brown. He's already gone. He gave John Brown away.
I mean, I think
year.
Marcos did a really nice job with that trade, but at the same time, like, good for Scott. Like going after Marcos doesn't comment a lot, and we don't get people reaching out to him as much.
Right.
But good for Scott on reaching out and negotiating that deal, and Marcos making what I think is a shrewd move, and I think it'll work out fine for Scott too. Because I don't think that Zeke is going to be an issue. But I think the bigger issue is that Scott needs a running back pretty badly in that position. And especially he's keeping Mike Evans in the second. And so then his next pick is later in the 3rd round.
Right.
And so if he doesn't get an elite running back in the 1st round, he's relying on Jeremy Hill and like Theo Riddick as his bell cows. So, he needs a running back in that spot, and ideally it's Ezekiel Elliott, but we'll see. So I think that anything short of a catastrophic suspension that just is so brutal you couldn't bear it. I think that you'll see it happen. Zeke going off the board to Scott.
And you having your super wide receiver team.
And me getting Antonio Brown and Julio Jones, which will be... I had a season where I had A.J. Green and Julio on the same squad, and this will top that. That'll be great.
Robin will be openly masturbating at the draft to body pillows.
I think I'm going to set up like a screen recording of me doing number 2 and number 3 overall. Like that should be a GIF. Don't you think, like, that I can post to our fantasy football Reddit of just like selecting Antonio Brown and then selecting Julio Jones back to back?
Yeah,
that would be good. I'm down. Either way,
let's do it.
And if Scott gets scared away off Zeke, I think I'll probably take the risk anyway, knowing that I can probably still field a good team. And wait for Zeke.
Right.
And worst case scenario, I have one of the best trade chips in the league. In the absolute worst.
Draft pick.
If it doesn't work out, you have the running back that'll take you to the promised land in the playoffs.
That's right.
So
take me there, you Ewok.
So I think that's the other part. The same reason why I don't think it makes it past Brienne.
Right.
Is that no matter what, he's not injured. He's not. It's a suspension. He comes back into a great offensive line and is a number 1 back. And scoring 15 to 25 points a game
until
So-
Alfred Morris takes over.
yeah
Anyway, Mr. Robin, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for I guess I'm having you
Yeah,
so
you're having me.
at the moment, but thank you for interviewing me. I really appreciate it.
I hope all of you enjoyed getting to know your president in his last term in office, on his way out the door, on this personal piece interview that we did. He's a beautiful man.
In between the ferns.
In between the ferns. That's right. Zach Galifianakis. Very much so. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I'm P. Livingston. You can find me on Twitter at Peter Livingston. Shoot us an email at ffdynastypod@gmail.com. You can find Robin at the Disc Golf Podcast for iTunes, SoundCloud.
Yeah, Stitcher. We're on all of
Stitcher
those.
and all that stuff.
You can find us on Facebook, the Disc Golf Podcast at facebook.com, and at the Disc Golf Podcast on Instagram, and at the Disc Pod on Twitter, and we're all over the place. And our website, throwstuffatstuff.com.
Thank you, Robin.
So, thank you.
And good night.